Hello, I'm Rukmini, and this is one of my favourite dishes from my new book, The Sweet Roasting Tin. It is an apple, cheddar and clove galette. It's so easy to make, and it's a real rough and ready tart, so if it doesn't come out perfect looking, it doesn't matter at all. It's going to be absolutely delicious. A galette is one of the easiest types of tart you can make. The pastry is just flour, sugar and butter with a little bit of water, and then you can put any kind of fruit you like in it, but today we're going to do apple. Now, the easiest way to do this is in a food processor, but I don't have one today, so it's always useful to know how to do things by hand. I've got my flour in this bowl here, and I'm going to add in 50 grams of sugar and all of this lovely cold cubed butter. So I'm just using my fingertips, and you can see that butter is just crumbling beautifully into that flour. If you work the butter into the flour in quite a rough way, you're going to end up with a lovely flaky pastry. If you work it in quite a lot, so you get a more sand-like texture, then you'll get a short, crumbly pastry, a bit like shortbread. So really, it's personal preference and how much you can be bothered to do this. But all in all, this shouldn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes. As you can see, this is looking like lovely, rubbly sand now, and it is only going to take the tiniest bit of water to get it together into a dough. You really mustn't worry at this stage if the butter feels a little bit melty, because we're going to chill it right down in the fridge before we work it anymore. So I've just added a few drops of water. Now I'm going to very, very gently bring this together into a dough. And you can see that took very little time. And that is a nice, very buttery dough. So that should chill in the fridge for about an hour, or you can pop it in the freezer for 15 minutes, which is what I'm going to do. While the dough's chilling, I'm going to cut my apples up. So I'm going to cut these as thinly as I can. Use a really nice sharp knife. And I'm going to season these really simply, just with a bit of sugar, some rosemary, and some cloves. And I love that combination of the sweet and savoury in this, because of course we're going to put the cheddar in, so that'll work so well with the apple. Lovely. Now I'm ready to stir through my sugar, pinch of ground cloves. This is ready ground, but if you were doing it from scratch, that's about 7 cloves. And just give that a little mix, and that can quite happily sit while your pastry is chilling in the fridge or freezer. Done. The dough's out of the freezer now, and it's ready to roll. Now, to make your life much easier, I recommend that you roll it out on a piece of baking paper, then you don't have to worry about transferring it later. Now, you want a rough circle about 30 centimetres across. And as you can see, this is rolling out quite nicely. If it starts sticking like that, it just means that you need a bit more flour on your rolling pin. There's no need to really push down. The rolling pin is going to do the work for you. Ta-da! So first, and most importantly, I have cheddar cheese. So I'm going to grate this straight onto pastry. Apple and cheddar, as you probably know, it's just a lovely, lovely combination. So now I'm going to arrange the apples on the top. I usually do this quite roughly, but because you're watching, I am doing it nicely. So I'm just going to make little groups of 4 and arrange them at angles on the pastry, but obviously you don't have to do it. It will be just as delicious without. The apples are all arranged on here now, but I've got some of this lovely appley, sugary stuff that I can pour over the top so as not to waste it, because it's got all that lovely flavour. Now it's time to roll up the sides of the tart, and the best thing about a galette, as I said, is it's supposed to be rustic, so if the pastry starts to crack a little bit, it's not the end of the world. You've left a border here of about 2 inches, so you've got plenty of space. Don't worry if bits are looking a bit ropey, because you can very gently pat it back into shape here. And we're going to cover it with egg wash, which covers a multitude of sins. So the last finishing touches to this, I've got some lovely fresh rosemary here to dot over the apples. I've also got some butter, because that's going to melt over the apples, give them a lovely glaze, and it's going to add a really amazing dimension of flavour, because butter makes everything better. Now, I've got an egg yolk here for egg wash rather than an egg white, just because you're going to get a really lovely yellow glow from that in the oven. And just very gently brush that all over just the exposed pastry. That is looking lovely and rustic, so it's ready to go into the oven, 180 degrees fan for 30 to 35 minutes, just until the pastry is lovely and cooked and the apples are soft. This is out of the oven now and it smells incredible, but if I could recommend you one thing, it would be let it cool, pop it in the fridge and have it tomorrow. I know it's really difficult, but the flavours just intensify and it goes from being a really nice dish to an absolutely incredible dish. I really hope you enjoy making this one. It's one of my favourites, the apple, clove and cheddar galette from the Sweet Roasting Tin.